The Inflation Reduction Act represents the most substantial commitment to addressing the threat of climate change in our nation's history. It may well be the most important environmental legislation that Congress has ever created. This bill invests $369 billion in creating incentives for clean energy, clean transportation, and energy efficiency. This historic investment will help achieve an estimated 40% reduction in carbon emissions from 2005 levels by the end of the decade. This will help us keep the commitments we made at COP26 in Glasgow and will be an inspiration and a pressure on the rest of the world to act. At the same time, we're delivering real financial relief to American families. Moody's Analytics estimates the Inflation Reduction Act will reduce household spending on energy alone by more than $300 each year. This legislation also makes enormous strides for Americans struggling to pay for prescription medications. Americans often pay 2 to 3 times more than residents of other developed countries for the exact same prescription drugs. And for the highest priced prescription drugs without competition, the bill empowers Medicare to negotiate prices with drug companies. This, by the way, is not price control. The Secretary is required to set the price based on statutory factors, R&D costs, sales data, among others. We don't call it price control when the Secretary of Defense negotiates with Lockheed Martin or Northrop Grumman. We don't call it price control as the Department of Veterans Affairs negotiates lower drug prices for our heroic veterans. We don't call it price controls, and Medicare sets the rate that pays doctors or hospitals or nursing homes. This is just a negotiation. That is the very essence of capitalism. I sold cars for 46 years. We were negotiating every day. There was never a price control there. Similarly, the bill limits out-of-pocket prescription drug costs for people with Medicare Part D to no more than $2,000 a year. And it protects against the exorbitant hikes in prescription prices for Medicare beneficiaries by requiring manufacturers to pay a rebate if they raise prices higher than inflation. These are reforms that seniors and people with disabilities deserve. And an overwhelming majority of Americans support this negotiation. It's what they want. And the $35 cap on monthly insulin copays for individuals Medicare is terrific, but I'm deeply disappointed that Senate Republicans blocked that same $35 cap for the millions of insulin users with private insurance. But that battle is not over. This battle also lowers healthcare costs for the millions of low and middle income Americans by extending the Affordable Care Act's premium tax credit enhancements through 2025. With this bill, large, hugely profitable corporations will finally pay their fair share, just like normal Americans do. And we accomplish this through a 15% corporate minimum tax applied to U.S. businesses with annual profits over $1 billion. Claims by corporations and the wealthy that this package will raise taxes on working families is patently false. In fact, 5 former Treasury Secretaries, Democratic and Republican administrations, came together to issue a joint statement calling out this lie, stating, quote, "Taxes due or paid will not increase for any family making less than $400,000 per year. And the extra taxes levied on corporations do not reflect increases in the corporate tax rate, still 21%, but rather reclaiming the revenue lost to tax avoidance and provisions benefiting the most affluent." Let me also push back that to my friend on Ways and Means. This is not 87,000 new agents. In fact, only 11% of IRS employees are agents at all. And the current estimate right now is that the money spent on the IRS over the years will at best restore the staff to what it was in 2010, 12 years ago. And at most, 20 to 30,000 new IRS employees, very few of whom will actually be agents. Instead, what it will do is allow us to address the 10.2 million unprocessed individual claims that are sitting in IRS cafeterias around the country right now. This bill is also funded by a 1% tax on stock buybacks. Today, stock buybacks are taxed much more favorably than dividends. And with this, we limit the tax avoidance that makes large shareholders and corporate executives whose incomes are often based on stock price, wealthier, and use the proceeds to find sensible investments in climate and access to life-saving drugs. Finally, the legislation will invest in the IRS to improve services for all taxpayers and make sure that well-heeled taxpayers with armies of lawyers can no longer shirk their tax obligations with immunity and impunity. This transformative legislation is a historic win for America's and families' pocketbooks, for our health, and for our future climate security. I look forward to responding to your questions, and I yield back.